Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Till Mets Do Us Part here on the Chop Sports Network. You can get this podcast wherever it is you listen to your podcast. It doesn't matter to us whether it's Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, all of those places and more. We don't care where you listen, just that you listen. And of course, if you like listening, but you would prefer to watch us instead, you can do that too over on our YouTube channel, which is appropriately titled Till Mets Do Us Part. So whether you watch, whether you listen, make sure you click that subscribe button so that you're always alerted to when a new episode drops. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez. Ibby, I thought this episode was going to have a different feel. And I don't want to bring the energy down right from the jump. I'm just going to ask you, like I do every single week when we do this, how you're feeling right now.
Well, John, I was feeling I was on like a different level. If you asked me this question Sunday night, I was just on another level of happiness and just pumped up, and how a lot of things that happened over that 4-game stretch with the Dodgers carried over from what we talked about on our last episode of things that we wanted to see, and it all played out, and we got the split, and it was awesome. And then, of course, we see what happens yesterday in San Diego for our man Pete Alonso, and it's a feeling of sadness because once it happened, I like the mood was just sucked out of the room. And like the second half, I'm watching the game. My wife's like, "You don't look so good." I was like, "I don't feel so good," because she looked over. She's like, "Oh no, he's down." I go, "Yeah, this isn't going to be good." So we're still waiting on word. But as opposed to as in terms of my overall feeling, it's not the greatest feeling. But I refuse, and we'll talk about this more throughout the show. I refuse to just go into this self-loathing way of Mets fans that a lot are doing already, and I that's the one thing I will say. I refuse to do that.
I agree with you there. Look, the Mets, everybody said, oh my God, what's going to happen to the Mets season when DeGrom got hurt in spring training? And what'd they do? They went off and, got off to this crazy start, and they're in first place and they're looking good. Then Max Scherzer gets hurt and everybody says, oh no, what are they going to do now? They're like 13-5 since Scherzer went down. Right. So if you've been watching this team, if you understand the way this team is built, you understand the depth that this team has, you have to understand that this team is in a position to weather these kinds of storms. They have the necessary depth. They have the owner and the front office and the analytical department that will identify a piece whenever they might need to go get one, and they will bolster it. So has the season taken a little bit of a scary pause, a little bit of a scary step back for a moment? I think that's okay because, like I said 2 weeks ago, with the DeGrom and the Scherzer injuries, you have to manage expectations. Right. This is not the team. Looks like Marte is going to hit the IL, but it also looks like maybe it'll just be a 10-day IL. Listen, rest that quad, rest that leg up, and let's bounce back. We'll go get some outfield depth. The Mets are prepared to cover for Marte. The Alonso one does scare me a little bit more because the Mets are not prepared offensively to cover for a lengthy Pete Alonso absence. So the fact that we haven't heard anything yet is giving me a little bit of pause. But again, like I said with the Scherzer and DeGrom injuries and McGill, you have to manage expectations. This is not the team right now, today, and by the time people listen to this tomorrow, they might hear something a little bit different because we might have more news. I hope we do. But this is not the team that we thought we were going to have in spring training. And when that happens, you have to manage expectations. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to say, oh, woe is me. Oh, the sky is falling. Oh, the world is over. Oh, the Braves are going to catch us. Oh, the Phillies beat Josh Hader. Oh, my God, everything's going to happen. The other shoe has dropped. No, right. You just have to manage the expectations that come with. This was a team built to have DeGrom and Scherzer at the top of the rotation. They haven't had that. They've managed to weather that storm. This is a team built largely around Pete Alonso batting fourth, being the biggest thumper in the lineup from a power perspective, and they have been that. The offense has been tremendous. If he, for some reason, can't be that guy for an extended period of time, they will have to adjust. Do I think they can? Yes. Do I think they will? Yes. Is it going to be a bummer? Absolutely. But you can't sit here and be like, well, that's it. Season's over. I'm tired of the season's over, people. I'm tired of them. There's plenty of things to be happy about. There's plenty of things today as we record this to be pissed off about. But you can't ride this wave of emotion that has no sense linked to it. You know what I mean?
No, I get it completely, and I think the way you summed it up before was spot on in saying how that was the first time throughout all these injuries and things that have gone on with the hit by pitches and everything. That was the first time I felt as if time stood still in that moment. I was just like, and waiting for that report to come out. And again, it doesn't mean much that there was no report of a fracture or anything, because there could still be other things once the swelling goes down. That's why we're waiting for more information. But it was like in that moment, it felt like an eternity, and that was the first time I felt that way all season with everything that's gone on with this team to this point. Because, like you said, they've been weathering the storm, and they've been next man up and doing everything that they can to still win games, which I still think they can do. But to your point before, saying how the lineup has been constructed with Pete being that thumper, and we talked about it throughout the offseason as well. We felt that this lineup potentially needed another thumper behind Pete to really bring it home. Now, if you're taking him out of that lineup, and we never really got that bigger, if you will, bigger type of bat behind him, now you have a lot of questions when it comes to the lineup. And even though this team has weathered the storm, a lot of the storms have been via the pitching staff. So I've been saying on the show, we've been talking about it at length, talking about how, this offense can carry the team. Well, now this offense is going to be potentially without Starling Marte and Pete Alonso for an extended period of time. And that brings up a lot of questions, because now you're putting people in positions that have to perform even more than what they've already been doing. Also, you're asking people to perform at a level potentially that might be asking a little bit more, because when you have those guys in the lineup, it allows those other people to play off of those people. So it's like it allows someone to just focus on one thing because they know that Pete's behind me, can drive him in, or this, or
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about setting something up to get a running or scoring position, because Starling is the one who really drives the offense in terms of speed, and now you're taking that away. So it's like the little things that have really separated this team from other teams so far with their style of play. You're losing two giant aspects, and that's power and speed. So I do believe in the next man up. I do think that this team has the moxie to carry through 100%. Is it going to be difficult? I think it will be, but at the same time, it helps that we have been able to build a cushion to this point.
Yeah, and that's why you build cushions. And that's what we talked about last week when I said, the old adage in baseball is that you don't win pennants in April, but you can lose them in April. You build cushions hoping that you can weather storms over a long season. If you come out in April and you're, 5 and 20 in the month of April, you may have lost the season already. But if you come out there and you're respectable to above average to exceptional, where the Mets were this year, well, now all of a sudden you're like, look, we've built in some equity. We've built in some ability to weather the storm. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here. I know I told people to say, don't be over the top. Don't say, oh my God, the sky is falling. And I'm not doing that, but I am a little concerned.
Right.
Because you have to be, because like you said, the offense has carried this team. And without Pete Alonso, without Starling Marte for an extended period of time, if that's the case, that's going to be a problem. Could we stem the tide if they both hit the 10-day IL and they both come off the 10-day IL and they're ready to go? Yes. I am fully confident that this team almost might not even skip a beat. But if Pete Alonso has a broken bone in his hand and misses 6 to 8 weeks, all of a sudden now I don't feel good about this lineup moving forward, because we can address the fact that, and I've been critical of guys like Brandon Tierney on the show. We both have. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it, because one of the things that's frustrated me prior to the injuries was that, Brandon's been one of those guys that since 2012 has been so vocal about the Yankees being one-dimensional, all home run or bust, no other kinds of hitters in the lineup. That's not sustainable. You can't win a championship that way, which I think is true. I think you can't win a championship if your team is all boom or bust. And it's been proven largely because the Yankees haven't won one. Now, you flip over to the Mets this season, and his critique has been exactly the opposite. The Mets have been one of the best teams putting the ball in play. The Mets have the best batting average and on-base percentage in baseball as a team with 2 strikes. The Mets are doing every little thing right that you would want offensively.
Most runs scored in the game.
Yeah, most runs scored
Most
in the
runs
game.
scored, yeah.
Grinding out at bats, staying in at bats, taking walks, letting the next guy knock people in, not being overly aggressive, being patient with 2 strikes, which is something Showalter and Chavez have been preaching. It's been excellent. And Brendan Tierney's whole commentary is, well, is it sustainable because they don't have enough power? And that's ridiculous because, again, it's talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Right.
If anything, this Mets team is far from one-dimensional as currently constructed. The fear that I have is that without Pete Alonso in the middle of the lineup, that now the stuff that Brandon was, I think, unfairly critical of them, now I get a little concerned. I think that now, if Alonso misses any extended time, that maybe some of the stuff that he's saying is something I can actually worry about. Do you know what I mean? Because at that point, now you look like a one-dimensional team that's got all kind of doubles power, gap to gap power. There's nobody who scares you. To use a football analogy, I'm a Jets fan. Everybody knows that. Chad Pennington was a great quarterback. Mentally, he was Peyton Manning. Physically, he wasn't a third of what Peyton Manning was. So you knew that Chad Pennington could not beat you with the deep ball.
Yeah.
They had no home run threat when it came to the Jets offense led by Chad Pennington. I fear that with Alonso out, there is no home run threat. Now, obviously, Escobar's got power. Canna's got power. Lindor's got power. But none of them are Pete.
Right.
None of them are Pete, the guy that's like, we cannot. I mean, Pete Alonso was getting walked in almost every situation because he was shortening up. He was going to right field with 2 strikes. He was taking ground ball outs to knock in runs. But then, oh, by the way, he was hitting balls out. Some of those balls that he hit out in Dodger Stadium, I don't even know how he did it. He had a 101 mile an hour sinker on the outer part of the plate. It didn't even look like he got it. And he hit it.
It just kept going.
He hit it long out.
Yeah.
So that's my fear, is that with Alonso missing, if he is for any extended period of time, that we're going to be a one-dimensional offense where the other team says, I mean, look, anybody can beat you with a home run at any moment, but these guys don't scare me as far as home runs go.
And I think, to bring it back to what you were talking about with BT and why it's improper, it's like you can question a team if you're saying, oh, they don't have enough power. But in a game now where it seems like the Mets are one of the few teams that are actually, putting the ball in play and next guy up and like doing those things and still scoring all the runs that they're scoring, everybody else is still kind of locked into that boom or bust. So it's easy to go out and find power if that's what you need to do. Like you can go out and find something
to
help to supplement. I'm not saying you're going to go out and get a Pete Alonso. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can go out and if you need some pop, you can go find someone if Pete happens to be out for a long period of time. Not saying that's going to be now, thinking more towards the deadline, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it's tough sledding, man. And looking at the lineup as is, I would say to you that if our pitching was what it's supposed to be, what everyone thought it would be, I think I would feel a lot better because I would trust those guys to keep it down in terms of what's being given up. But because we're dealing with injuries on both sides now it's kind of like you're burning the candle from both ends.
Exactly.
And you're kind of getting caught in the middle and it doesn't end well. So it's like you can have one thing carrying the other, but when you're losing from both ends, it makes it that much more tough. So, I mean, it's great that Tyler's going to be back hopefully this weekend against Anaheim. I love that. And it kind of adds to that pitching strength. Obviously, I think he'll probably need a little bit of time to get back to where he was, but still having that is good. But, I'm with you. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm 1,000% confident in the offense. I mean, I'm still confident as a fan. I'm not going to let this deter my feelings that I've had to this point. But yeah, look, I'm waiting on bated breath for more on Pete, mainly because the second it happened, I said, oh shit. And the reason I said, oh shit, is because I thought of Freddie Freeman a couple of years ago when he got hit on the hand and it really affected him. And it took him a long time to get back to what we knew Freddie Freeman to be.
Yeah.
And, like it sapped his power for a little bit too. And it takes time. So I'm curious as to what the final, diagnosis is going to be on him. And that's why I'm, so nervous about it.
And you know what? I mean, you said it, and it's something that we've talked about a little bit on this show, but now I think is the perfect time to bring this up. The Mets got to hit somebody. I don't care where they hit them, how they hit them, who they hit. The Mets have to hit somebody with ill intent. And I don't mean headhunt. I don't mean, you got guys that throw 90 miles an hour, 95, 100 miles an hour. I don't want anybody getting hit in the head and dying, going to the hospital, upsetting the balance of their career like David Wright and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. The Mets need to hit somebody and send a message. And if a fight ensues, a fight ensues. They got to hit somebody again during the fight, punch somebody, because this is ridiculous. I know that a lot of this is unintentional, but when you watch Yu Darvish last night, he hits Brandon Nimmo. Okay, no harm, no foul. Little curveball gets away from him, skims off his shoe top. What are you going to do? But then he hits Alonso and takes Alonso out of the game, and then he hits McNeil. He hit 3 batters in 2 innings.
Yeah.
He's just out there hitting guys. I don't care. I don't care if he's Yu Darvish. I don't care if it's Yu Darvish or if it's the poor bastard that, didn't belong in the major leagues that hit Lindor in the face or whatever. Yeah. I don't care who it is. A lot of these hit by pitches have not been intentional. I don't care anymore, Ibby. They have 40 hit by pitches as a team.
Yep. First,
40.
MLB first. Yep.
First in MLB.
Yep.
And as of before yesterday, they were like a half dozen up on everybody else. Now they got to be almost 10, almost a dozen up on the next closest team. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. Alonso's been hit 7 times. Nimmo's been hit 6 times. They threw out a stat on the broadcast. I think it was Gary Cohen. He said that there's a chance that Nimmo or Alonso or both at the end of this season could take over the Mets' all-time lead for hit by pitches. Right now, it's Conforto has 50. He ain't playing any more games with the Mets. Behind him, Lucas Duda with 48. He ain't playing any more games with the Mets. Behind him in third place, Nimmo with 47, Alonso with 46. That is absolutely ridiculous. There comes a time when you have to do something about this. I'm sorry. They have to. I don't know if you agree or disagree. We didn't talk about this before, but, and maybe it's just my frustration, but we got off lucky. Alonso got hit in the face and nothing happened. Lindor got hit in the face and nothing happened. Nimmo got hit on his bad hand the other day and nothing happened. Yeah. Well, now something happened and now I'm pissed off about it.
Yeah. I mean, automatically I understand the frustration. And look, I'm not going to be shocked. As of this recording, people listen to this a day later. But is Bassett on the mound tonight? Is Bassett pitching tonight? Okay. So would I be shocked if he goes out there and hits someone? If he puts one between Machado's shoulder blades? No, it wouldn't shock me. Is that warranted? I think it is. Or if it's just buzzing a guy back or whatever. Whatever it is that they want to do to put the Padres or whoever they want on edge and just trying to, establish some sort of payback. I'm okay with it. I'm not saying just like straight up, like, I don't know. I guess this kind of goes back to our conversation that we've had on previous episodes where it's just like, the old written rules of baseball and this and that. And it's like you said, don't want anyone to get hurt, nothing like that. Put something on someone's, low hip, on the ass cheek, between the shoulder blade. Like, I get that. That's old school baseball. But I think there's also a lot of people were talking about it last night too. It's just figuring out something. If it's something as simple as the grip again, making sure that guys are being protected, because I feel like not just the Mets, I think it's a lot of baseball too that's just getting hit a lot. But that's a Major League Baseball thing, and trying to figure out something when it comes to a substance or the ball in general, whatever it might be. So yeah, there's a lot of questions with that. But yeah, I get the frustration. And I guarantee you, if I was on the field and that was happening to my teammates, I'd be pissed off too. And I would probably be one of the first guys in line saying, put one between his shoulder blades. Like, yeah. I'm tired of this shit. It's exhausting to this point. It really is, because
I think at this point, maybe I'm sorry to interrupt. I just don't think intent matters anymore.
Yeah.
When you're hit at a clip that the Mets have been hit at,
yeah,
you have to, I think at some point, establish to the other teams that are coming in to play you, that if you hit us, something bad might happen to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, I get it.
I know that's
that,
a little bit schoolyard mentality. I know it's a little barbaric, but I just, there's got to be a way.
Yeah, but your point is clearly that the fact that it's happening too much. So now it's basically the team's been pushed to this point where it's like, look, We've been hit 40 times so far. The next team has 32 or whatever. I think it's Baltimore or whatever. The next team's been hit that. We're sick and tired of this. So if you're going to pitch inside, pitch inside. But if you hit us, know that we're going to come right back at you too, because it's gotten to the point where we can't just bend over and take this anymore. Like there's no way, because it's now that people are getting hurt, it can't be like that. So I get 100% what you're saying. I understand what you're trying to get across. I do.
Yeah, it's kind of like, to use the adage, like, you know, I'm a hockey fan, but I'm not a diehard the way some people live and die by it. And I remember years and years ago when I was even less of a fan, I was talking to one of my buddies about it, and I was like, you know, it's kind of ridiculous that they're allowed to fight the way that they fight. Yeah. You know, it's sometimes it gets nuts. You know, it's so violent, it's so aggressive, and like football's a full contact sport, and they're not allowed to fight. And he was like, and he played hockey, and he was like, well, you know, he's like, it's just a different game in terms of chippiness, because the other team is always going to test what they can get away with. They're always going to push the envelope, whether it be with legal hits or slightly dirty hits or whatever. They're going to push, and they're going to push, and they're going to push, and they're going to push. And eventually, the only recourse you have is to throw the gloves down and hit that person, because you need to let them know that can't happen. You can't keep hitting our Sidney Crosby, our Panarin, our whoever it is. You can't keep hitting that guy and assaulting him on the ice, quote unquote, legally within the confines of the game. We're going to throw down. And I think when he said it like that, and I'm paraphrasing, and this is years ago, but that's the message I'm trying to get out here now with the Mets is
I get that.
If I don't want them to throw in anybody's head. I don't want them to hurt anybody. But you know what? If tonight Bassett throws at Machado and hits him in the back between the shoulder blades, and Machado charges the mound and there is an actual fight, I don't care. I don't care if people get suspended. I don't care if punches are thrown, because at the end of the day, you have to say, this is not going to happen at the rate that it's happening. And if it is, you know what? One of your guys might get hit. And if it does, then you know what? It might come down to blows. We might have to, actually fight, because you just have to, I don't know. The Mets are just kind of, it's too business. It's too like business as usual. Oh, we got hit again. Here's Nimmo writhing in pain, getting hit on the wrist. He just got an injection on and missed 4 games because of it. Yeah. Here's Alonso going out. He's on his way to an unbelievable historic season where he might have, 150 RBIs. No, now he's going to be out. Like, I just think that they need to do something about it. And again, I know it sounds probably schoolyard and juvenile to say it, but I just think it's hard to watch as a fan, and I know even Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez, they're from a different era, and they've said it a couple times on the broadcast, but I think their point is right, because if you're a baseball team, like the hockey analogy, what other recourse do you have than to take your gloves off and fight the person? You don't have one. Yeah. What are you going to do? Complain to the commissioner's office? The fuck is he going to do? Nothing. Nothing. The guy doesn't do anything anyway. Yeah. He's going to be like, oh, I can't worry about that. I got to put 11 a.m. games on Peacock.
Yes. No, I mean, I guess the only way that anyone could really combat that is just, go out and beat the other team instead. But no, I get what you're saying.
But it's hard to beat the team when you're
when half the team's missing. Yeah. When half the team is missing because they all got hit. But no, yeah, I'm with you, because and another thing is just like I think back to the Arenado situation when he got a little pissed off when he got buzzed or whatever, and that whole thing ensued when the Mets were getting hit a lot then, and everything that happened. It's like, at this point, baseball knows, like every team in general knows, that the Mets are getting hit at an extremely high clip. So if they get hit in a game that you're facing them in, I think you should know that there could be something coming your way. So to react the way that some guys do, like if you're a big player, whether it's Machado, whether it's Cronenworth tonight, whether it's, whoever else, and if they hit them, it's like, are you that shocked? Really? Are you that shocked? Like, it's one thing to get hot because, look, nobody wants to get hit, especially with a 95 mile an hour fastball. I don't care where it is. Nobody wants to get hit by it. But at that point, I question if people can really be that shocked because, like you said, it's like something happens so often to this point, and now guys are going down and getting hurt. It's kind of like, well, we should have seen this coming.
Yeah, and I mean, going back all the way to the Arenado stuff, it was nonsense. Their manager comes out and is like, well, guys getting buzzed around the head's not good. It's like, dude, in the same game, your pitcher hit one of our guys in the head. You tone deaf moron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to sound like an eye for an eye here. And yeah, was that a little bit closer to his head? Like, I mean, Arenado kind of blew it out of proportion. I know this is ancient history we're talking about because it wasn't that close. But yes, it was up and in. It was head height, whatever. But like you said, you have to expect it. If you're a team not expecting to get hit in the head, again, we're not condoning that. But if you're a team coming in playing the Mets, you have to understand that the backdrop of the season so far has been guys have been hit like crazy. We dodged a couple bullets, and now it looks like we might not be able to dodge one for our best fucking player. So teams have to understand, look, pitch inside, but you better know what you're doing. And that's where it comes back to try to take the conversation full circle, Ibby. It's a part of baseball.
Yes.
Because here's the thing. Let's say Alonso misses some time. I'm just throwing out a hypothetical situation. Let's say Alonso has a broken bone in his hand. He's going to miss a few weeks. It's going to be problematic. The Mets offense is going to, be reshaped as a result of it.
Right.
Okay. Well, now you find out that information. Let's say we find out in a few hours. Tonight, Bassett goes out. He drills Machado in the back. Like I said, they get into a fight. Now a fight ensues. There are suspensions all the way around. A few people from each team get suspended, whatever. A couple people get punched. Now all of a sudden, the next team that comes in to play the Mets, they're going to realize, oh man, the Mets have had enough. If we hit one of their guys and then we get hit and then the fight ensues and suspensions ensue and stuff like that, it's bad for everybody involved. So if a situation like that happens, so now they're a little bit more tentative to pitch inside. Well, all of a sudden now the advantage from a baseball perspective swings back towards the Mets a little bit because now these Mets players on offense can look a certain way. They can start to look over the outer half. They can start to look to pull because they know that the best they're going to get is middle in. They're not going to get guys buzzing them up and in. They're not going to get guys throwing around their hands. So it sounds like a frustrated, you got to hit somebody. And I'm not saying that there's none of that. There's a lot of that, and fans can probably see it in my face and hear it in my voice. But it's also from a baseball strategy perspective of, you know what? If your pitcher's not confident that he's going to be able to throw the ball inside for strikes or inside off the plate, but in a non-dangerous way where some guy might charge the mound, maybe he doesn't throw inside, and maybe that gives our offense, which is taking a little bit of a hit without Alonso, a little bit more of a boost. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. I guess the one thing I would say to come back on that is, and this is just me asking a question straight up to you, like if that happens, the hypothetical you just laid out, and suspensions happen and people are gone, like I'll put it this way. What if that happens? Machado charges, goes after Bassett, a scuffle happens, whatever. Eduardo Escobar gets involved in it, and something happens, and he is suspended. Now we're down that bat.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that is something that is potential in the thought process of a Showalter and Epler, the front office in general, where it's like, it sucks that this is happening, and now we're getting injuries that are hurting our lineup. But if we retaliate in that way, and we lose players that are healthy because of something like this, now we're costing ourselves more games. Do you think that might be part of the thought process at all?
I do. I think that's exactly why they're not doing it. I think they're afraid of other injuries that would be unnecessary because they're not baseball injuries. They're resulting from a fight. And I think they're worried about suspensions too. Now, look, if a guy like Escobar gets, just continuing the hypothetical, if Escobar is involved in the scrum and he gets suspended for 3 games, I don't think that's a huge deal in the grand scheme of the season. Even though, yes, to your point, we'd be down another bat, arguably our second best, although he hasn't been that this year, our second best power bat in terms of like long-term success driving the ball out of the ballpark. But I don't know. I don't mean to talk in circles, but it brings me back to my point before of, well, then what else do you do?
Yeah. No,
You
I
know,
get it. It's a
early
tough
on,
spot. It
we
is.
talked about it. Look, Buck is the consummate pro.
Mhm,
And I know everybody was joking around, and there were all those memes about top step Buck
mhm,
and Buck, looking so pissed off and disappointed and upset. And then some of the stuff he said about Spider Tack, about how pitchers probably took the sticky stuff too far, but I think
mhm.
we need to have a middle ground so that there could be grip on the ball. I think all of that is valid.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think the Mets probably won't do much. And honestly, it's grand scheme of life, grand scheme of the season, it's probably better that they don't. It's a
Mhm.
safer bet to continue doing what they're doing, which is nothing,
Right.
than escalating things the way that I'm suggesting. Because if you escalate things, there's a chance that stuff doesn't go your way. People can get hurt, people can get suspended, something bad can happen, and then where are you? Then you might screw yourself worse. But I just think, what else is, like, I don't know, I'm tired of watching our guys writhe in pain.
Yeah.
And and to take it back to Arenado, because it's a good example. We get a guy hit in the head, nothing really happens. Arenado, the ball was a foot away from Arenado,
Yeah.
and he charged the mound.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off, man.
Yeah. No,
At least,
Yeah.
and that's his right. If he feels like he was being thrown at intentionally, fine. But also read the room, bro. A
Yeah.
guy got hit in the head earlier.
Yeah.
So, to me, I'm not. I don't know which way is the best way. I'm just tired. I'm just tired of watching it happen. I'm just tired of watching our guys essentially get beat up. It's like if you have again, a football analogy. If you have a defense that is just getting bashed by this running game, this
Mhm.
running game is just an onslaught. Like, eventually you got to take some shots. I don't mean cheap shots, but like, eventually you got to try to do something that's going to slow it down. Like,
Yeah. Sell out
forever
to stop the run. Yeah.
sell out to stop the run.
Yeah.
Forever in a day, forever. I used to say, when Brady was the quarterback of the Pats and the Jets were getting mauled by Brady all the time, I said, Brady is the best quarterback in football. If you look at him wrong, you're getting a roughing the passer, right? It's just going to happen. And this is going back to when the Jets were good and competitive, like the Rex Ryan years, right?
Okay.
I would say all the time, if I was coaching the team, if I were Rex Ryan, and I don't mean this in a dirty way with the intention of hurting, I'm just saying I would tell my guys on the first two offensive possessions of the Patriots, I would say, hit Tom Brady no matter what.
Mhm.
And I mean, if the ball's out and you're on, hit him. Because odds are you're going to get a ticky-tacky roughing the passer penalty anyway.
Mhm.
Hit him, make him feel it. Because as soon as Tom Brady starts to feel pressure like that, he's a different quarterback. That's how the Giants beat them in the Super Bowl twice.
Pressure up the
As
middle.
soon
Yeah.
as he starts feeling A-gap pressure in his face, getting hit, he's not the same guy no quarterback would be, because no elite quarterback's allowed to get touched. So I'm not saying you hit him high in the head. I'm not saying you hit him and you try to blow out his legs. I'm just saying you don't stop. Just hit him anyway.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, the guy pulled up. How many times you see guys pull up on Tom Brady, bump him like with their chest when there was literally nothing else they can do? They get 15 yards. Tom Brady, is like smiling as he's got another 15 yards, a free first down. The team goes up 7-0. So if you're going to go up 7-0, make that son of a bitch feel it.
Yeah.
And that's the same way.
That's
That's the mentality I'm taking into this, is like, you know what? Guys are hurt now. Alonso's hurt. Guys are out of the lineup. So you might as well go down fighting, because to me, it's just, I can't watch guys like, what happens? So to your hypothetical of if guys get suspended or hurt from a fight, well, what happens if tonight somebody comes out and McNeil gets hit and McNeil's hurt now and they don't do anything about it? So like, guys can get hurt without the fight, without the beaning back and forth. So I don't know. I just think that there needs to be a precedent of like, stop fucking with us, whether it's intentional or not. Just stop.
And I think like, by you just bringing that up, I think it just brings back to the other point that I was saying before. It comes back to the ball, and it comes back to, look, you have a game that's built on velocity now, and everyone wants to throw harder than the next guy, and that's how guys are getting jobs and staying within the league, is by throwing hard. It's like, well, then you have to find something. You have to find a middle ground when it comes to the ball and substance, so guys can control it. Otherwise, everyone's going to keep on getting hurt, and I think that's where, that's why I still hold a lot of this on MLB as well. But it's just, it's a lose-lose in the end, no matter what. Like you fight people, you establish something, but then you might get hurt and then you might be suspended. You don't do anything, you look weak, and it's just like there's no winning. And that's what sucks about it. Like we all just want good, clean baseball. But at this point, as Mets fans, granted our record is great, it sucks seeing our guys going down like this. It's just annoying. And like I said, it's gotten to the point where it's just exhausting.
Yeah, and ultimately you're right, and like you said, it's a lose-lose proposition, and a lot of this is born out of the frustration. I mean, look, the Mets have never had an MVP, and
No, I know, I get it.
and the Mets have had some years where they've kind of been screwed. I think it was '88 with Darryl Strawberry. He probably could have won that year. All the years we had David Wright. Like, I mean, there were definitely better players in the NL, but I think maybe and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I apologize to anybody who's listening to this that I might be off on the year for Darryl or what I'm about to say about Wright. The year that Jimmy Rollins won the MVP. Right. I'd like to take another look at Wright versus Rollins numbers on that. I think the Mets have been victim of being the Mets. And you have a guy here who's legitimately one of the best players in baseball, hitting 285, 16 home runs, 54 RBI. He had 50 RBIs on Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And so this guy was on his way. I know we talked last week about not being careful to not use the word special season for the team because it was still early. Yeah. You know what, though? Alonso was having a special season.
He was.
Forget about 100%. The team. He's having a special season. And so I'm tired. It goes back to what I was saying to you before about Jacob deGrom when he got hurt a few episodes back when we were talking about this. I'm tired as a Mets fan being robbed of things. I'm tired of Doc Gooden having a drug problem and us getting robbed of that. I'm tired of a contract dispute being the reason why we traded one of the best right-handed pitchers of all time in Tom Seaver before you and I's time, but still it's relevant. I'm tired that Matt Harvey wasn't what we thought he was. I'm tired that Pete Alonso in the midst of an epic season is getting hit. I'm just tired of it all. I'm tired of it. It's so stupid. It's so frustrating. Like we're a great fan base, and we don't want anything more. We don't want to take away from other fan bases. But why the hell can't we have it too? It's so frustrating, Ibby. It's annoying. It's annoying to be having this conversation. I wanted to talk to you about how they split with the Dodgers, and it might be the greatest split I've ever seen. Instead, we spent 40 minutes talking about Alonso getting hit in the hand.
But look, I get it. I knew that this was what the episode was going to be like today because we talked about it a little bit before we started, and it's just like we had an idea of what the vibe was going to be, and then of course everything got changed within that first inning yesterday, and it sucks. It does, but like I've said before, this is the ultimate therapy session, and obviously, it is what it is, and we're gonna finish strong, and we'll go to the break. As I'll throw it back to you, so you can throw us the break, and we'll continue this, and we'll finish strong.
I think that's for the best. I do feel like I got some of that out of my system now because I was ranting and raving. I went to a local bar with Chris Frangiola last night to watch the game, and so it was pretty tough watching that game in public and not being able to fully express the breadth of what we were feeling. So good segue. Thank you for reining it in. We'll head into the break. We'll come right back. We will talk some positives and some actual Mets baseball. This is Till Mets Do Us Part. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez on the Chop Sports Network. We'll be right back. Yo, welcome back into Till Mets Do Us Part here on the Chop Sports Network. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez. I know I went off the rails a little bit there in the first half. I apologize for that, but I just frustrated, man. Mets fans, I get it. I know that we try to be as even-keeled and even-tempered, and Ibby and I both pride ourselves in being rational fans and not sky is falling fans, and a little bit even, especially in the Steve Cohen era, a tick towards the positive of realistic fans, but it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating to watch. I want nice things. We finally have nice things, and I'd like to keep them nice as long as possible. So hopefully a lot of that rant is meaningless because tomorrow, by the time you guys hear this, hopefully we've gotten good news.
Got some more news,
and I just look like an idiot that's been yelling. I have been refreshing Twitter, by the way, throughout the show. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel and you're like, why does he keep looking down on his phone? It's because I'm refreshing Twitter to see if there's been any news on Alonso, which to the moment that we're talking right now, there has not been. But let's talk about some of the positive stuff that's happened on this trip so far. And that is, well, we got to start, Ibby, with the series split with the Dodgers. I mean,
Yeah.
The Mets came out, Mets looked flat in the first 2 games. And what I was telling people online was, guys, this team just flew cross country, no off day, meeting up with a team who is excellent, who has won a World Series, who's been in contention for the last 10 years, basically, who knows how to win, who has a star-laden team, who has good pitching, and they landed and had to play them immediately. With all of those things factored in, the human element of baseball, I think the Mets are entitled to come out and be a little flat and it be okay. Because then they rebounded in a great way. And the last 2 games were vintage Mets performances from this season. Ibby, I want to throw this stat at you. And this comes from Patrick Glynn on Twitter. And I didn't know this, but over the course of the 4-game set with the Dodgers, the Mets, 15 runs, 29 hits, 9 walks, 5 home runs, 38 strikeouts. The Dodgers, 16 runs, 31 hits, 9 walks, 5 home runs, 32 strikeouts. Those are 2 very, very, very evenly matched, very good teams.
Absolutely. And it's crazy to me. And I tweeted this and it didn't get much traction. I didn't think it would, but like you look at it and you're like, I think I did this during game 3 and it was like, it was Gonsolin, Anderson greater than Walker Buehler. ... That's baseball. And it's crazy because it's like you come out and it's like, I know Tony Gonsolin's been having a good season and I like him as a pitcher, but you lose that game and then Tyler Anderson and his funky leg kick, he's coming in, he's shutting down the Mets. It's like, oh great, here's another soft tossing lefty shutting down the Mets. And then your backs are against the wall, legit, in terms of public perception, like we talked about last episode. Because I said if they went in there and they lost 3 or 4, they got swept, people are going to say, oh, they're pretenders. So you go into that game after losing the 2 games that me personally, I thought you had to take because you had Buehler and Julio on the back end. And now you're going in 2-0. And the fact that team, I said to you on last episode, and I'll reiterate to everyone who didn't hear it. I said to you last episode, you said to me, what do you want to see on this West Coast trip? And I said to you, I want to see this team handle adversity the way they did against the Phillies or the Nats, the same way against a better team like the Dodgers, like a Padres team. Okay. That's what I want to see. And I got that in spades, games 3 and 4. I saw and the fact is, game 3, I'm looking at my notes right here. Game 3 started off bad because it's like, oh, Lindor gets the home run. Great. Here we go. And then all of a sudden, Bellinger gets the fielder's choice. It's 1-1. Betts with the 3-run double. Now it's 4-1. Now you're down. And it's like, well, here's the situation I had asked for. You're in a tough spot. Work your way back. And they did. They come back and they win that game. And then, of course, the Sunday game was phenomenal baseball. That was playoff baseball 101. That was everything that any baseball fan would want to see in a game. It was incredible. Now, of course, I could be saying that I might be seeing a different team if they lost that game. But the fact is, it was incredible. They come out and they get the split. And like you said, like everyone's going nuts over a split in June, but that was something when you watched it and you're like,
and barely June,
barely June. Everyone's going nuts over this game, and you're like, well, these are 2 teams that could see each other again, and it's like that. It's like the chess match where you're showing things, but you're not showing everything, and also because you're gonna have to make a move later on, and this seems like something that can be seen again come October. Again, we don't like putting the cart before the horse, but still, it was incredible baseball through and through.
It was a great game, and it brings me to the next big topic of conversation, which was Bucks outside the box thinking of getting Diaz there in the 8th inning. Now, I know you're applauding for everybody who's listening to this and not watching it. Ibby's applauding that, and I second that. Yes. And I said it as much, on Twitter. Look, the Mets won the game, so winning cures all. You win a game, doesn't matter, right? Like you said, you could say that was playoff baseball. It was a great baseball game, maybe the best game the Mets have played all year or one of the best games in baseball all year. You could say that with a smile because your team won. Right. So winning cures all in a lot of ways for fans, for players, for managers, for decision makers. Winning is the ultimate thing. So the Mets won the game. So largely it doesn't matter. But I will say this, and I've been defending it the same way that I defended Joey Cora on that good send in week 1 on Pete Alonso where Alonso tripped. You know what? Seth Lugo tripped. The rationale was spot on perfect.
Yes.
Buck Showalter did something that, and I hate to evoke this guy's name because he was a terrible manager and an even shittier person, but I have to for context. He did something that Mickey Callaway said he was going to do in his introductory press conference and never did. Mickey Callaway, former pitching guru turned manager, said that he was going to use his best relievers in the most crucial spots of ball games, and he never did it. Now, whether that was because the Mets had an analytics department that was basically funded the way that you would like it's just ridiculous. Like there was nobody there, whatever. Maybe it was Jeff Wilpon saying, no, you got to put the closer in. Who the hell knows what happened? But he never did it. Buck made good on that promise from years ago. Buck said, I'm going to take my best reliever and I'm going to put him out there up against the best part of the Dodger lineup, because that, stat aside, is the true save. That there is the save. And they said it on the broadcast too. Yeah. The Dodgers are really good, but the Dodgers are a very top-heavy lineup right now. Mm-hmm. After you go from Betts, Freeman, Turner, it starts to get a little suspect. Yeah. With, Bellinger's not the same guy. Max Muncy isn't out there. Gavin Lux doesn't scare me. Even Will Smith, who was batting 4th, and I know he had the big home run, but Will Smith isn't the same guy that he was last year right now. Right now, the lineup for the Dodgers is Betts, Freeman, Turner, period. Mm-hmm. So if you have your best reliever lined up and those guys coming up, that was always the choice. Yeah. And people can argue, and I think if the situation was a little different, you could see in between innings, looked like Diaz was trying to make his case to stay in that game. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe later in the season, we might see that. Because I think in the playoffs and down the stretch in August and September, I think you might need Diaz for 4, 5, 6 outs. So I think we might see that later. I think, though, Buck was looking at, look, I need to try to win this game because I want to get out of here with a split, but I also have used a lot of my bullpen, and I don't have any off days heading into San Diego. I think if they had Monday off and then went into the San Diego series instead of having Thursday off, I think we could have seen Diaz come out there and pitch a second inning. But I think he wanted to preserve and make sure that he had him in case he needed him on Monday. And I also think that was the right move. Look, Seth Lugo's been up and down. Seth Lugo's performance does not mean that was a bad call by Buck. It was ballsy, it was gutsy, and it was 100% the right move.
I don't understand why anybody would have been against that. I know I was checking Twitter during that time, and I was just shocked that people were complaining about it because, look, like you said, you have their three of the best hitters in baseball. Let's be not just 3 of the best hitters in baseball.
Mookie Betts is a former MVP. Yeah. Freddie Freeman is a former MVP. Trey Turner is unsung one of the 10 best players in baseball. All 3 of them are probably top 10 best players.
And you have the option to roll out your best reliever, one of the best relievers in the game this season, 100%, whether you like him or not, doesn't matter. He's one of the best relievers this season, and you have a chance to roll him out against the top of the order. I would understand people being upset if this was the Seth Lugo of years ago. If you were rolling him out in that spot because he was so dominant then,
sure.
Then fine. But that's not the same guy. We haven't seen that guy in a while. So when I have the opportunity to roll out an electric reliever that Diaz has been to go against the heart of that lineup and to shut him down, that is the proper move. Like you said, Lugo slips up in that spot in the 9th, doesn't take away from the fact that it was the proper call with Diaz shutting them down there, because again, you are trying to limit the damage, because if you run Lugo out there instead in that 8th and they take the lead and you lose the game, you're complaining about that. So now you shut it down, you buy yourself another inning, you buy yourself some more time. And that's what you want to do against a great team like LA. You want to buy time to give yourself a chance to win the game. So
Absolutely.
I did not understand why people were being so anti it. I think people were also angry at the idea of Diaz not going to, but like you just broke it down there with the timing and everything in the games and wanting to have him. Like I understood that. So yeah, it's just the thought process was proper. It just wasn't executed, but in the end, they still won the game.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too about Diaz. I think if you're going to be upset about any of it or you want to argue from any perspective, that's the only one that you could take of like, well, if it were me, I would have just pitched Diaz both
Right.
innings and, come what may the following day. I think you could probably I wouldn't have done that. I think Buck made the proper choice all the way through. But I could see that part of it. But the flip-flopping Diaz and Lugo and having any issue with that, I think, is just a mistake. I mean, look,
Yes.
the Mets have a good bullpen. The Mets have a better bullpen than I think any of us would have expected at the start of the year because you and I both said we wanted them to get one more legit arm. The Mets bullpen ERA is pretty good. The Mets have had a bullpen that has really largely stood up. And look, every bullpen arm is going to go through bad spurts. Look, Colin Holderman had his first little bad spurt last night. These things happen. But you cannot deny the fact that today, in this season, Edwin Diaz is far and away the best bullpen arm the Mets have.
Yes.
Drew Smith has come back to earth.
Yes.
Seth Lugo's not the same guy he was a couple of years ago. Adam Ottavino is not the same guy he was in Colorado or that first season with the Yankees. Joely Rodriguez has been really good, but obviously you're not going to put him in that spot. Holderman and Nogosek have been godsends, but you're not going to put them in that spot. They're too unproven. Same thing with Medina, and now you're starting to get into the shallower part of the bullpen. It's Edwin Diaz.
Yes.
And like you said, if you had prime Lugo, if you had Adam Ottavino from, whatever that great year he had in Colorado was 6 years ago, 7 years. If you had that Ottavino this year, sure.
Different story. Yeah.
Go with that guy.
Yeah.
But you don't.
You
have I don't want to say coin flip because it makes it sound like the guys are shitty, but you have an inconsistent Ottavino. You have an inconsistent Seth Lugo. You have after a lights out start, an inconsistent Drew Smith. Yeah. So I'd rather go with the money. Go money good. Edwin Diaz has been money good. 2 of his 3 blown saves were also like 2 of the ticky-tackiest blown saves you could possibly have. One was, just a great hitter doing something great, the Bryce Harper home run that he hit the opposite way. And the other one was bloop, bloop, bloop. Oops, sorry. And by the way, the Mets won 2 of the 3 games he blew anyway.
And why anyone would really I was shocked that people were so quick to question Buck because this is coming a day later when you just watched, watching that initial at bat with Mookie Betts against David Peterson, where he's ripping the ball foul, and this is when the bases were loaded. Then I'm like, this isn't going to end well. I'm just watching this. It's like he's going to come in and he's going to rip him, and then sure enough, he shoots the gap, and the bases are clear. And now we're down. Still won the game, but point being, he faces Betts again, and he pulled him after the one pitch because he ripped him foul, and he's just like, I'm not doing this shit again. You're done. And that was the right move. It was the right thing to do. So I don't know why people were so I know Buck has this stigma still from Zach Britton and years ago with handling of bullpen and closers and blah, 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 blah. I know he still has that, and I guess he'll shake it once I guess people see him win. I don't know what it's gonna take for him to shake it, but just seeing that, it's like he's been doing well. Have there been some hiccups along the way? Sure, but in this instance, he did the right thing. It wasn't executed, and again, shout out because you mentioned just before, big time shout out for the freaking Stones on Adonis Medina for getting those 3 outs because I wasn't able to watch it on the TV at that point. I was in the car driving and I was just listening to it and I was just going absolutely insane, just like banging the wheel. And my wife's like, will you calm down? I'm like, I can't calm down. This is incredible. And then, shout out to Medina. That was awesome.
Shout out to Medina, and also just great out of you for picking up that other one. Everything that we talked about in the first half and all the stuff going on, with the Diaz move. I forgot about pulling Peterson after one pitch. It just kind of slipped my mind for the purposes of this conversation. That is another example. And again, you go back, I'm not hiding from it. Go back and listen to the tapes in the offseason. I told you I didn't want Buck Showalter. It's another example of why I was wrong. The guy's got guts. The guy is aware all the time. He knows what is going on all the time. Even down to the weird, quirky thing with the pitcher not being able to pitch and the rule being wrong, which we didn't even talk about. Buck Showalter is fundamentally ready for every situation, period, end of story. The fact that he had the reliever warming up and he sees that rope. When was the last time you saw, I'm asking you, Abby, when was the last time you saw a pitcher pulled mid at bat, not because of an injury?
Couldn't even tell you.
Same thing.
Especially one pitch. I could not. That might have been the first time I've ever even seen it. I couldn't even tell you.
That's what I'm like. I watch a lot of baseball. You watch a lot of baseball. I watch almost every single Met game unless I'm working or have some other kind of, commitment that prevents me from watching the game. I cannot remember. I tried to think of it. I know I've probably seen it. I cannot remember. I couldn't even ballpark when it was. If it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was 6 years old, no idea. And so to the point where, and I think somebody said this on Twitter too, that they hadn't seen it in such a long time that they kind of forgot that you could. And I felt the same way. Like I knew that you could, but I kind of forgot that you could do that. Because especially with like the 3-batter minimum rule, which obviously doesn't apply, he was the starter, but you know what I'm saying? Like with all the rule changes and stuff, I kind of forgot when he came out to get him. I was like, oh yeah, like you could just do that. Be like, I saw something I didn't like, so I'm going to get this guy out of here because it's just not going to work. And then they made a mention that, obviously it's something that Gil Hodges did and it was on the Gil Hodges night and all that stuff. But like, just such great awareness. And yes, shout out to Adonis Medina for having the stones in that game. And the other guy that I want to shout out, who's been absolutely terrific for us since being pressed into duty, is Trevor Williams. Trevor Williams has been great. And you mentioned McGill coming back this weekend. I'm sorry, man. The odd person out for me is David Peterson. David Peterson gets sent down. Trevor Williams deserves to start and to stay in the rotation until either DeGrom or Scherzer come back.
Yeah, his last I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say like his last 24 innings pitched, he's been lights out, and what was it? It was a couple days ago. Yeah, when he pitched, it was just like he wasn't that great, but it was enough to keep the team in the game. And it's like that's all you can ask for. That's really all you. It's like you busted your ass to get that point. I would agree with you. I think right now with McGill coming back, I think Peterson is the guy that is, based off of what I've seen, has to be the guy that's the odd man out. Like especially now with the way that this team is, you have to ride the hot hand anywhere within this lineup, within this rotation, within this bullpen. You ride the hot hand until things get back to normal.
And you need guys. Look, I understand David Peterson is the prospect, or he's beyond prospect status now, but you know what I mean. David Peterson is the guy with the pedigree. David Peterson is younger. David Peterson is lefty. David Peterson came up in the Mets organization. There's high hopes for David Peterson. You look at Trevor Williams, he's like, 29, 30 years old. They got him as a throw-in on the Baez deal. He didn't start out having a great year in very, very, very limited duty, but I don't care. I don't care right now about the guy with the higher ceiling. I don't care about David Peterson. Maybe
I want to win right now.
Right. David Peterson has the higher ceiling. We could all admit that. Even still, even though I'm not a huge David Peterson fan. He reminds me of Steven Matz 2.0. I haven't been fans of either one of them largely, but he's got the higher ceiling. That is undeniable. But right now, today, Trevor Williams is a better pitcher. And so you could take your higher ceiling. You can do whatever you want with it. He also has, right now, he has more blow-up potential. And for an offense that we're not sure if they're going to be capable of coming back from 8 runs down, I would like the guy who went out and took care of business against the Nationals with 5 scoreless innings. I would like the guy who gave up 2 runs early to the Dodgers and then gutted it out and stayed in the game. To me, Peterson is too much. Peterson is a wild card, and I don't want to play the wild card right now. Right now, I need to go with reliable and steady.
I 100%. Like I said, it's all based off of what the perception of the team is. And look, the team is still 38-20. It's like the sky's not falling, but still things are, not what they were, 48 hours ago. So things are a little bit different. Things are changing. on a minute-to-minute basis with this team. So, yes, you play the hot hand, and the hot hand right now is Trevor Williams over David Peterson. So that's the move that I would roll with as well. Now, of course, look, we don't know what the limitations might be on a Tyler McGill coming back. What are they going to say? Like, look, we want you to go out there. We want to see, 3 innings from you, maybe 4. So then maybe you're going to piggyback with the Peterson.
Sure.
Like, I don't know. Like,
Sure.
like those things are possible, at least in the early going, because I'm not sure how they're going to handle McGill the second he comes back. I know he's had a couple rehab starts, but still, you might want to, sometimes you're very careful with arms, especially now with everything that's going on with this team. So that's going to be the interesting thing. But yes, I would opt for Williams over Peterson.
Yeah, and I think that's the one caveat to what I was saying. Coming off the one rehab start, we only pitched, I think it was 3 2/3 innings or something like that. If you got to get length out of, or you have to build back to getting length out of McGill, and you want to say, okay, for at least one more turn through the rotation, we're going to leave Peterson in the rotation, and because Williams has more experience as a reliever, we're going to let him be the backup guy to McGill. That I have no issue with.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that, 1 or 2 more turns, whatever they think they need. I'm just saying, if they went back to the regular scheduled program, I want Williams starting until, either Max or Jake get back. I know we got to get out of here in a minute, but speaking of those 2 guys, Scherzer dodges the bullet with the dog bite situation. I'm happy that he took to Twitter and said
Steve Cohen with a great tweet as well.
Yeah, he's like, this is a non-story. Forget about it. DeGrom throws a bullpen session, 19 pitches, all fastball of moderate intensity. I don't know what that last bit means. I have no idea. What was he like half? I don't know. I don't know what moderate, like you either pitched or you didn't pitch as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know what that means. And then of course, shout out to our shortstop, king shit Francisco Lindor, for nearly breaking his finger, or actually breaking his finger in the door. And he's playing. He missed one game. He missed one game. And Ibby, I will say this, about 4 years ago in Salt Lake City, Utah, I was doing something really dumb. Hotel doors, they close with a lot of velocity.
Yes,
like they swing close so that they'll lock, right?
Yes.
It's a safety feature. And so they were swinging close behind me, and the little like do not disturb thing was like about to fly off the door. And so without looking, I kind of reached back to save it, and I put my finger in between where the door, like where the locking mechanism is, and it closed on it. Yeah. Boom. Dude, I want to let you know that the blood splatter on the wall was like a Tarantino movie. It shot immediately. It looked like Kill Bill. It was like up the wall. So like, and I didn't have a fracture because I checked. I had to get it checked. But man, oh man, my finger hurt. It was cut. It was bloody. It was swollen. It was black and blue. So for somebody who's had a similar injury to all-world shortstop Francisco Lindor, and I do want to say I do play shortstop in my beer league softball, but I do want to say, I just said. So I know, I know a little bit about what Lindor's going through here. Listen, man, like I just want to say, as somebody who had a similar situation happen to him, it hurts like a son of a bitch, and I cannot imagine getting up there and trying to hit somebody who's throwing 100 miles an hour a day after it happened.
Yeah, that's just incredible. And I think I want to say shout out to for a good joke and making light of a tough spot. I think it was the We Gotta Believe guys. I think they put out a tweet basically saying how, God is clearly asking for a hand of the Mets, going after Lindor's finger and then Nimmo's wrist and now Pete's hand. So it's like clearly, it's in good fun. Obviously, we're all still waiting on bated breath, but I got a good laugh out of that one. But yeah, it's my ending note that I want to just put out there is just keep the faith, Mets fans. Don't let this situation bring you down too much. Look, I can tell you for about 25 minutes, a half hour last night, I was just like in the absolute dumps thinking about what we could potentially be missing out on a season with Pete and everything that's been going on. But I refuse to fall back into that mindset. I refuse to basically let this train stop. And I think that this team feels the same way. And I'm going to bring it back to what J.D. Davis said in the post game of that Dodger win on Sunday. Basically, he was saying how important it was for them to get out of that series with a split. They fought hard for it. They wanted to prove who they truly are. And I think that is what's going to continue to happen. I think guys are going to step up. And I think, look, I think, are there going to be more ups and downs now? Absolutely, until everything gets back to normal. But I think that this team is going to continue to bust their ass and play hard. And Mets fans, you should believe in them because I think this team can go somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that they've given you so many reasons to believe. You know, from the DeGrom injury to the Scherzer injury to the stuff now with Pete and Marte, they have not skipped a beat. And I think that, you know, we talk about how at midseason at the trade deadline, when a team is good, you have to reward that team for being good. Now, that doesn't mean that you mortgage your future for a team that maybe is playing above its head, but a GM and an ownership group in a baseball season needs to reward a team for the success that they've given, and they have to go out and try to supplement that team. And the reason why I bring that up is for Mets fans, you have to allow the team, reward the team with your faith. Because this team this year has given you no reason to doubt them. Me and Chris were watching that game 7-0 heading into the 9th inning. And I said, I still think they can win.
And that's something that we've never been able to say as Mets fans.
Ever. The last time I felt that strongly about a team being able to win every game was 2006.
06, yeah. That's it.
06.
That's it.
06, they were never out of a game. They were always right there. They always did the little things right. They always did what they needed to do. And that was the last time. And listen, 2006, it's 2022.
Yeah.
2006,
it's a long time ago.
It doesn't feel that long ago sometimes because, you know, with Met fans, you latch on to the successes. So like, you know, when I think of best times I've felt in my life as a Mets fan, I think of 15 and I think of 06, and then I lump them all together. 2006 was a long ass time ago. I was in college in 2006. A long
senior
time
year
ago.
of high school for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's a long ass time ago. Yeah. So, you know, they're right in it. They're going to be there. They're going to reward. Listen, just reward the team with your faith because they have given you every reason to believe. And with that said, we got to get out of here. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez. This is Till Mets Do Us Part here on the Chop Sports Network. And hopefully, Met fans, that whole 40 minutes of the first half of the episode will not have to come to fruition because we'll get good news on Pete Alonso in the next little bit. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.